Hi everyone. I am very excited to have the opportunity today to share with you all a bit about our experience with our myeloma priority setting partnership. My name is Lauren McLaughlin. I am an East Coaster living in St. John, New Brunswick. I am one of the patient engagement coordinators for the Maritime Sports Support Unit, and I was fortunate enough to coordinate much of this project. I was supposed to present today alongside Bill Payne, one of our patient partners, who is a dedicated informal caregiver for his wife Yolande and is from British Columbia. But Murphy's Law, Bill recently had an accident that didn't permit him to co-present. In preparation for this presentation, we met with our patient partners and to elicit their feedback, to share back their perspectives to make sure it was accurate, and to put the presentation together. So I hope today by myself that I can do justice to the lessons learned they wanted to share. Our goal with our presentation today is to give researchers and patients alike some insight into what worked and what could have been improved regarding patient engagement in the identification of research priorities. Using language from the Canadian Institutes of Health Research Strategies for Patient-Oriented Research, patient is an overarching term inclusive of individuals with personal experience of a health issue and informal caregivers, including family and friends. Our project engaged both patients and caregivers, but for the sake of this presentation, I will use the term patient partner. Now to tell you a bit about our team. For a bit of background, we followed an established process through the James Lind Alliance, a non-for-profit initiative founded in 2004. Their process brings together clinicians, patients, and caregivers in a steering group in priority setting partnerships, commonly known as PSPs, to work to identify and prioritize the top 10 unanswered research questions that they agree are most important. The aim of this process is to make sure that health research funders and researchers are aware of the issues that matter most to the people who are impacted by research. Our steering group was truly pan-Canadian, with members spanning from British Columbia to Nova Scotia. We were fortunate enough to work with the project's funder, Myeloma Canada, the only national charitable organization created for Canadians impacted by multiple myeloma, to identify potential members via direct outreach, support groups, and patient partners who had been engaged within their own committees. We were looking for members who were comfortable in sharing and bringing their lived experience to the table, available to participate in regular meetings with offline work, and were able to commit to a long-term project. The steering group would guide the 4 phases of this iterative project with external members such as myself, the majority of whom came from the Maritime Sports Support Unit, the MSSU, provided in-kind research development and implementation support. This slide just gives you a quick glimpse into who is on our steering group, but it doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of who these fantastic people are. I am in no way a clinical expert on myeloma, but I've learned a lot about this project. Multiple myeloma, commonly referred to as myeloma, is a blood cancer that is associated with the abnormal behavior and uncontrolled growth of a type of a white blood cell, the plasma cell. In myeloma, abnormal plasma cells interfere with the production of normal, healthy blood cells, and it can negatively affect different parts of the body, such as bones and kidneys. The cause or causes of myeloma remains unknown, and every day 10 Canadians are diagnosed. Our project started in 2019, and once we had identified our steering group members, we came together in April of that year in Toronto to meet in person. We used this opportunity to build our relationships, get to know each other, and determine what approaches we wanted to take forward. We also identified the scope of our project to be 4 key areas: diagnosis, treatment, management, and living well. The steering group, with the support of folks like those from the MSSU, developed an open-ended survey to learn what questions participants like patients, caregivers, and healthcare providers would find most important to be answered by research. With 600 participants, this initial survey elicited over 3,000 proposed questions. These questions were grouped together in 76 uncertainties, or also known as indicative questions, for example, mental health, and the steering group determined which of these 76 uncertainties were within the scope of our project. In the same time, The uncertainties were checked against more than 600 systematic reviews and 300 clinical practice guidelines to confirm what questions had already been answered by research. This led for the 76 questions to come down to 45 and to be brought forward to the next stage. In a second survey, we asked participants to choose from the 45 remaining questions to rank the top 10 questions they personally would like to see answered by research. This survey had over 650 respondents. Once the second survey was closed, a virtual final workshop was held in April of 2021. 23 new to the project patients, caregivers, and clinicians came forward to review the survey results and finalize a top 10 list of research priorities for myeloma. Our top 10 list is now available, and we are working with Myeloma Canada as a team to share the results broadly and find ways to encourage researchers to research these priorities. And now a bit on the patient engagement method. For most of us involved in this initiative, it was our first real exposure to true patient engagement on a health research project. Most of the patient partners had never been engaged on a health research initiative, and for the healthcare providers and those supporting the research, it was the first time engaging patients on a project of this size from the inception through to knowledge translation. It was a learning experience for us all. I'd like to share now a bit of an overview of some of the wise practices we used for patient engagement. There was significant value in holding our first meeting in person. While times are now different with COVID-19, we then were able to recognize the value in bringing everyone together so that we could develop our relationships that would foster trust and could reduce some of the impact of the power dynamics between the clinicians and the patients. We used first names only, had everyone around the table, not patients on one side and clinicians on the other. Everyone was provided equal opportunity to speak. Expenses were covered by Myeloma Canada well in advance to reduce any barriers for patients to be able to participate. This first meeting really set the tone for the rest of the project. As members came from across Canada, we weren't able to hold the rest of the meetings in person. However, we did have regular meetings using video conference. We used polls to ensure we had times for meetings that worked best for most members, and we offered technological support for anyone having issues. The meeting agenda and materials were circulated well in advance of meetings to provide all members ample time to provide feedback, ask questions, or to meet with the research supporting members of the team in case they had any questions. Our James Lind advisor was our neutral facilitator who chaired all of our meetings. This was important for the process as a neutral facilitator can enable patients to feel more comfortable to share their perspective. Our facilitator was really conscious to ensure she had asked all members their thoughts on every item. Detailed meeting minutes were provided, albeit I'm sure I provided too many details at the time when I was doing the meeting minutes. Our patients appreciated having their feedback thoroughly captured. Some of our members living with myeloma would sometimes forget conversations or how decisions were made during meetings due to the myeloma or treatment. Having meeting minutes capture more than just the decisions made, but how the decisions were made was a supportive tool for patients. Finally, we tried to always express during meetings and offline that if patient partners wanted to debrief individually, that we would find time that was convenient for them. We held numerous debriefing meetings, and it allowed patients to express any issues they had, identify any barriers they weren't confident in sharing during meetings, and these meetings further supported the development of our relationships and the trust. As I mentioned, my co-presenter and our patient partner, Bill, isn't here today to share a bit about the patient and caregiver perspective, but I would like to share a bit what they shared with us for this presentation. Let's start with what the patient partners felt worked. They advised us that they appreciated the equal membership of patients, caregivers, and clinicians on the steering group. Through PSPs, all steering groups are required to have equal memberships of these three groups. Our patients said that equal membership allowed them to feel comfortable and confident in sharing their perspective, and they would look to recommend to researchers to push for higher membership of patient partners on research teams when doing engagement. They also advised us that holding the first meeting in person was essential to the project's success. They said that it fostered strong working relationships and it gave us time to build trust among team members so that we could challenge each other and learn from each other. Finally, our patient partners really recommend neutral facilitation and thorough meeting minutes. It helps maintain transparency, but it also helps the patient partners feel more secure going through the project process. As like everything, we have opportunities to improve. Our patient partners felt that we could have been more clear about the workload and timelines initially. They recommended that researchers engaging patient partners on their projects really take the time to think about what the commitment and ask of the patient partners are, whether it's the offline work, how many meetings, and really setting a clear expectation from the very beginning. Additionally, take the time to explain that timelines in health research change. There are delays, things move forward, things move backward. It just helps their understanding and prepare that timelines do indeed change. They also recommended that there be greater flexibility in meetings to discuss other matters. Our agendas were quite tight and we had lots of items. Our patient partners expressed that they sometimes wondered if they had a question or a concern that they didn't see fell naturally within our agenda. Could they bring them up during this meeting? Did it have to wait for another meeting? Including something in your agenda such as patient partner feedback gives patient partners the opportunity to share their questions and concerns and not waiting for the appropriate agenda item. Those of us involved in coordinating this project offered regular debriefing meetings, whether it was before our steering group meetings or after, but our patient partners advised us that it would have been appreciated if we had regular check-ins with our patients and caregivers as a team. So whether we had quarterly virtual meetings just to check in to say, how is your experience going? Do you have any feedback so that going forward we can provide you a more positive experience? That would have been really appreciated. And while we planned to have our last workshop to be in person, COVID-19 had other plans. Our patient partners really wanted to reiterate in this presentation that in-person meetings really fosters that strong relationship building, and that if we could have had an in-person workshop, it really would have brought the project full circle. Overall, our patient partners advised us that they felt they had a really positive experience being engaged in our PSP steering group. Many of our patient partners expressed that it built capacity in themselves. It gave them a greater understanding of how to be a team member on a steering group, and it gave them confidence to participate in future projects. Many patient partners also said that they felt they were able to learn more about myeloma going through this project. And finally, being able to work with other patients and caregivers on this project helped them feel less alone in their experiences. On behalf of our entire team, especially our patient partners, I thank you for the opportunity to share a few of our patient engagement lessons learned from our myeloma priority setting partnership. Our hope is that you learn some practical tips to support your future patient engagement endeavors. I'd like to offer a sincere appreciation to all those who supported this project, including our funders, and a big thank you to our steering group who made it all happen. If you have any questions about our myeloma priority setting partnership or anything that you heard today in our presentation, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at any time. Thank you again for this opportunity.